Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at a few storms which are going to be moving throughout parts of the northern plains, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast. We're going to be going in depth on that first storm, which is going to be taking place from about the 4th through the 7th in parts of, again, the northern plains, Great Lakes, and the Midwest, and the Northeast. And then we're going to be talking about briefly towards the end of the video the second and third storm, which is going to be happening later on next week, where we could be dealing with some amount of snowfall out of that as well in areas further to the south. So we'll be discussing these storms. I got a lot of requests yesterday to make a video on this particular storm and set of storms. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And again, stick throughout the video because we will be covering a lot of information. We have a ton of information to go through today, so make sure you are staying tuned all the way until the end. Here's a look at our weather photo of the day. This one was sent in by Juniper from Hillsdale, Michigan. He got around 6 inches of snow on grassy surfaces and about 4 inches on pavement. And this is not just from one storm, but from multiple storms. Again, Michigan has been getting quite a bit of snowfall and some of the surrounding spots as well, where they've been getting hit by clipper systems that have been moving in from central Canada, diving into the Great Lakes, bringing in maybe just 1 to 3 inches of snowfall, and then leaving. And once you get a couple of those storms to add up, you can definitely see some of that snow accumulate to maybe 4 to 6 inches of snowfall. So really fairly high and impressive numbers so far in parts of Michigan, and it looks like that's not really going to slow down all that much because we will have some more snow on the way with this storm. If you guys have any weather photos that you guys want to send in, send them over to my email address, which is elitheweatherguyyt@gmail.com, and then just write a general location from where you took that photo. So it doesn't have to be as specific as what Juniper wrote, so you don't have to write a town name if you don't feel comfortable, but you could have just wrote, in this case, Michigan or the lower peninsula of Michigan or anything that you want to add in detail to that, but just write a general location so that we have an idea of where that picture was taken from. And also, if you can, please try to make it a horizontal photo, just because that fits on the screen a little bit better than the vertical ones. Here's a look at what the current National Weather Service page looks like. You can see that we do have a few high wind watches up in parts of Montana and Wyoming, with some wind advisories in place for parts of New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, and Virginia. We have winter storm watches also up for northeastern Montana, but really other than that, we don't have many other watches or warnings currently in place. Yesterday, we had a high temperature of 92 degrees in Chino, California, with a tied high temperature in OJ, California, where they got up to 92 degrees as well. The low temperature was 4 miles east-southeast of Escort Station, Maine. That's right up in and around the Canadian border in northernmost Maine. They got down to -4 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest rainfall report was in Norwood, Washington, where they got 3.14 inches of rain, and the highest snowfall report was 5 miles west of Constableville, New York, where they got 7.5 inches of snowfall. That's up there in northwestern upstate New York. That area can get closer to 150 inches of snowfall per year throughout the winter. So really, they do add up in terms of the lake effect snowfall and then just regular storm snowfall that they get. So again, it gets up near 150 or more inches in that area. Same with the upper peninsula of Michigan, and that's also on par with what some of the central and southern Rockies see in terms of snowfall throughout the winter, especially in the high elevation. So that's a snowy part of the country, and it really happens because you have lake effect snow coming on from Lake Ontario, and they have a bit of elevation right here. There's a little patch of hilly areas in that area, and then of course you have the Adirondacks to the east. So it really just sets up a prime zone for snowfall to occur within that area. Here's a look at what the European model is showing. And before we get into that, I just want to say that if you guys ever have any storms that you want me to cover and to go over in terms of a video, just leave a comment down below. I answer pretty much, I respond to pretty much all my comments, or at least as many as I can. and I pretty much read through all of them except for a couple that do get missed. If you comment twice on a video, sometimes it doesn't give me the second comment, so that can be an issue. So if you do comment, try and comment. If you're going to comment again, if you're going to comment twice on one video, try and do it within the same comment thread. So kind of leave a reply to yourself if you want to comment once more, because that gives me a better chance of actually seeing it, because I'll see both of them at once. So sometimes that happens and I'll miss a comment like that, but for the majority of comments, if you just leave one down below, there's a fairly high likelihood that I'm going to see it. And for those of you who have already commented in the past, you know that I do respond to most comments, and even if you ask me for a forecast or anything like that, I will respond with a forecast or whatever you want me to respond with in the comments. So if you guys ever have a video suggestion that you want me to do, just leave them down below. I got a lot of suggestions yesterday to make a video on this particular storm, and I ended up doing it. I probably wasn't going to do it if you guys did not recommend it. So if you ever see anything within the models that you want me to talk about, just leave a comment down below. There's a fairly high likelihood that I'll end up making a video on whatever topic you want me to, or if it's something that that's not going to suit my audience too much, if it's for a localized type of event, then I might not make a video on it, but I will still respond to that comment with a personal forecast for whatever event you wanted me to cover. So either way, it'll be a win-win. So if you have any questions, anything like that, or any suggestions, just leave them down below. That's pretty much the best way to contact me in terms of that type of stuff. So here is for Sunday morning on the European model. The models have really trended back in terms of the snowfall, so they're not showing as much as what we were seeing last night, and that's what prompted a lot of people to make the comments asking for a video on this. They really were seeing most of the models, especially the GFS, later in the evening runs showing a moderate amount of snowfall into parts of the Northeast, and I'm assuming that probably prompted some people to make those comments, wondering if this is going to be a bigger storm and wanting me to cover it. For these reasons, I do hold off on making any assumptions. So for those of you who commented about that, again, I was more reserved in terms of saying that this is probably one of the outlier models, and that I still want to see what happens in the evening and late evening runs, and it did end up coming back into a warmer setup, at least for the first storm. But this is a set of 3 storms, so even if the first storm is not as cold and it ends up being more of a washout for your area, that does not mean that the second storm will also be a washout, and it does not mean that the third storm will also be a washout. So you have 3 chances here, and there's a fairly decent shot that at least one of the storms gives you some amount of snowfall, especially if you live in the Ohio Valley, the Northeast, the Great Lakes, the Midwest. So there's a fairly good shot that you'll see some snowfall out of one of the 3 storms. Now, this is the European just for the first storm. Now for the fourth, so this would be for Saturday night, you would see some amount of snowfall into North Dakota and Minnesota, especially northern Minnesota. And then for Sunday morning, we're going to have a little bit more of that stretching up into the upper Great Lakes. I will have a official snowfall forecast out on this storm either for tomorrow or the 4th. I might even hold off until the 5th to make one on the Northeast, because there are some more questions lingering around that area in terms of this storm. But I will make sure to get you guys covered if you live in the northern plains and the Great Lakes with this snowfall system. It looks like you could get some areas over half a foot of snowfall. So I'll definitely have you guys covered in terms of making a snowfall forecast before this event occurs in those locations. This would be for Sunday evening into early Monday morning. The storm is currently located over Wisconsin, and we have some moderate or even heavy snowfall up into Wisconsin and northern Michigan. We have some rain also down into parts of the lower Great Lakes, and it will be windy as well. So out ahead of the storm, especially through the Ohio Valley and west of the Appalachians, you will have some fairly intense winds coming out of the southwest. So it will be warmer, but it'll also be fairly windy. And this little area right in between the Appalachians and the storm, this is a fairly perfect setup for wind to occur on the front end of some of these storms, right ahead of the mountain chain. you can get some Gulf moisture and some really strong winds to stream up further north, and it really just creates a perfect prime zone in between about Illinois and the Appalachians for some of that wind to streamline further to the north. This would be by Monday morning, and the European model has some snow on the back end for parts of Michigan and Wisconsin. We have heavy rain or moderate rain in parts of the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and all the way down into parts of the southeast and the Gulf Coast. And then we have some more snow up into parts of Michigan, Pennsylvania, western New York. So these areas, especially higher in elevation, could see some back edge snowfall. Now, last night, if you were to look at some of these same models, they had snow for this entire area right here on the back edge. But on the current runs of the models, we're not seeing as much of that. And then it would move out by Tuesday morning. But areas like Vermont, western Massachusetts, New York, northern Pennsylvania, these areas would get in on some snowfall in between Tuesday early in the morning and Tuesday later on in the morning. Here's a look at the total snowfall from this event according to the European model. And again, this is just one model's view of what's happening. You have some really hefty numbers up into northern Michigan and the UP, as well as for northern Wisconsin. You do have some more lenient or moderate amounts into parts of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and that would even extend up into Maine. And then, of course, the lake effect zones in Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York, even parts of Ohio, getting in on some amount of snowfall. So if you live pretty much east of Michigan, it's not going to be too big of a storm. If you live up into the upper Great Lakes or also into the Midwest, especially the northern half of Minnesota and maybe even extending into eastern North Dakota, there could be some higher amounts of snowfall. Now, here's the forecasted snowfall from the GFS model. You can see that it brings it a little bit further to the south, but really that would be negligible amounts of snowfall. You do have some snow up into the interior northeast, so really nothing too significant there, but it does have that really high amount of snowfall for parts of the upper Great Lakes and the Midwest as well. So that's the consensus. We have that, which is what all the models are agreeing on, but what we don't have really too much agreement on is what's happening in the northeast. Is it just going to be 2 or 3 inches like the GFS is showing, or are some parts of the Adirondacks going to get 6 or 7 or 8 inches of snowfall? That's a big difference between 2 inches and 6 inches, or even 2 inches and 5 inches. So kind of roughing out those fine details and getting rid of any uncertainty is really going to be important when it comes to this forecast. Now, let's start talking about those other storms as well. So we're going to look at the upper air map. This is for December 5th. So this is for Sunday. And we have this first storm, which is all the way up here. It's in the Midwest by this point. And then we have your second storm, which is loading up into central Canada. So your first storm is going to go by. It's going to move into the Great Lakes, and it's going to become a fairly big storm. Now look what's happening over British Columbia. We have another system starting to develop, so keep your eye on that. So as this big storm, which is over the Great Lakes by Monday morning as a very strong system, is moving through, we're going to see this next storm slide in and combine with the energy coming in from central Canada along with a short wave which is in the northwest. Both of these are going to combine and move into the Midwest and the Great Lakes for round number 2. So here's the second storm. It's moving in. This is December 7th. Here's December 8th. It's now into the Great Lakes and the Northeast, and we would have the potential for more rain or snow as we get to around the 8th, the 7th and the 8th. Now, the third storm would move in probably between the 10th and the 11th and 12th. So this third storm is here by December 9th. It's in the Midwest and the Northern Plains by that point, and then by December 10th, it's going to be up into the upper Great Lakes, and then eventually that would move further to the east into parts of the Northeast before eventually moving out into Atlantic Canada. And then you could even have a fourth storm, which is sitting over the Midwest by this point, where you could even see some amount of more rain or snowfall out of that. So we're looking at an active pattern. We made a couple of videos about this active pattern. over the past couple of days. So of course I don't want to make another pattern video because that would kind of be a little bit more repetitive, but luckily just in the nick of time we're seeing more of the weather starting to get a little bit more active. We're starting to see these storms really come to fruition. We've seen this being forecasted in the long range for quite a while, and now it's actually starting to play out where we have more and more storms. So within the span of about the 5th and the 11th, we could see, or more around the 5th and the 13th, so that would be just around 8 days, just over a week, and we could see 4 storms move through the central and eastern United States, with all of them having the potential to bring in amount of snowfall and rainfall with them. So it's fairly interesting how that's going to play out after being a little bit mild and dry for the past few days. It is finally going to start to get active and maybe a little bit chillier on the back edge of these storms. It looks like ahead of the systems, it'll be fairly warm. We'll have high pressure dominating ahead of these storms, but on the back end and during the storm, it will be colder because we'll be in a bit of a troughing position. So it's going to be an upside down pattern. We're going to have a lot of storms rolling through, and we're going to keep you updated on this channel. So if you haven't already, make sure you are subscribed and you have your notifications turned on. And if you enjoyed today's video, please consider leaving a like. Again, if you have any comments or suggestions that you would like to improve the channel, or if you want a specific storm to be mentioned on this video, make sure to leave a comment down below. Again, I read all of your comments for the most part, unless one of them is missed, because YouTube doesn't send me the comment, because sometimes, again, like I said earlier in the video, if you comment twice on a video, it will only show me the first comment because I guess it thinks it's spam or something. So preferably that wouldn't happen. I have my notifications on YouTube to set to all comments so I can get all of them, but sometimes it does get missed. So if you do want to comment twice, just leave it in that same thread and just kind of reply to your older comment so that I can still see both of them. But otherwise, if you just comment once, I'll pretty much always see it, and I will respond to most questions or anything like that that you guys leave down below. And if you guys want a forecast or anything like that, just leave a comment down below and I'll give you a forecast. So again, that is going to wrap it up for today's video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.